Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining today. In life, generally speaking, the sense of seeking arises seemingly after something feels missing. So maybe as a baby, crying happens or seeking for milk or mother's breast happens. And there's a sense of hunger, a sense of um, satiation missing, like the stomach feels empty and that space needs to be filled. And there's a sense of hunger. And the crying happens in the form of seeking the fulfillment of that hunger or thirst. And that's how it seems to be. Then I want to seek a toy or I want to seek um, mother's embrace, father's appreciation. Um, and then it is asked for in whatever way, whether we cry for it or we um, laugh for it, whatever seems to happen to gain the attention of the parent, to receive those things as the fulfillment of the seeking. So something missing is felt, out of which seeking starts, and the object of what felt missing when is provided, it feels like that the seeking subsides. And then something else feels missing. Well, the physical hunger, thirst, um, need for connection, all of those things won't fade away until this body is here. There is going to be hunger, there is going to be a need to feed it and give it water, keep it warm. Um, but this pattern or mechanism with which something missing and then seeking and then fulfilling and providing what was missing, let's say food in this example, and then the seeking subsides. And then after a few hours or half a day or one day, the hunger arises again, something missing, effort to fulfill it, giving it food. The object of seeking is provided and the seeking subsides. On a on an emotional or even at a psychological level, life then becomes about reward and punishment. And that's how, for now, in most cases, society or family system seems to train the the baby or the child, the consciousness or the awareness in the baby, which is not polished yet and is still kind of trying to make sense of me and the other and this body and everything outside of it, and how um, the, putting the hand on the burner burns me and it hurts, and then crying happens. So don't touch something that's hot. That conditioning takes place. So just like organically, a child is going through all these learnings, and with it, it is somehow imprinted on the system that pain is punishment. And yes, pain is painful. So when my hand burns, when I touch the burner, when it's on, it burns and it hurts. And that hurting or that pain is a signal for me to take my hand away, to not keep it there in the fire. And likewise, in relationships, based on what family system, what geographical, economic, financial system one is born into, one finds oneself to be in. Um, there seems to be a training system that's put into place for the child to um, acquaint itself with the environment, how to deal with the environment, how to relate to itself, to the other, to the parents primarily, siblings, and then as the exchange moves outward, those relationships increase in number. So that same pattern of seeking, something missing, seeking arising, looking for the object of seeking, getting the object of seeking, and seeking subsiding. That was at such a raw physical level of hunger and thirst is somehow maybe also applied to relating to oneself, relating to the other. And mistakenly, it is maybe believed, even unconsciously, even before the power of cognition or sense making is in place, maybe is believed that the love of the mother or the love of the father or connection with the mother and father, well, even though physically it is crucial because a human child, baby, infant cannot survive without um, a caretaker, physically speaking, biologically speaking. And yet, that somehow maybe is imprinted on the psychology as a belief that um, if I don't get my mother's acceptance or my father's acceptance or whoever that figure is in that story, in that life, I will die, which was and is the case as an infant. But it also may be believed as the case existentially as a human being. And based on that belief or imprint, that that seeking somehow is placed because there is a condition now that I am okay or I am alive only when I'm accepted or I'm appreciated or I'm rewarded by whoever there is, the mother, the father, the grandparent, the teacher, the friends, and up to this day, whoever those relationships or figures happen to be. So something missing seems to be the lack of acceptance or approval or appreciation or reward, and or the opposite, the presence of rejection or presence of um, negative feedback or criticism or hatred even. So if any of those negative or the opposite of acceptance or approval or validation, the presence of the opposite of those, which is the invalidation, insult, making fun, not accepting, singling someone out. There are many ways to feel unappreciated or unaccepted. So either the presence of any of that or the absence of validation, the absence of acceptance, um, perceived acceptance, the absence of love in this definition of as an emotion feels like that's missing, and then the seeking arises as, and then just like when there was hunger and crying happened, which was a result of the seeking, and then the object of seeking, the milk or the food, being provided. Likewise, we, as a system, follow that void, that lack, and out of seeking, do whatever we do to find that object of seeking, and in the hope that the seeking will subside and the thirst or the hunger of this love or appreciation or validation will be quenched. And with this same pattern, deep imprinted pattern, um, spiritual seeking also starts. So this pattern not only is followed in the quest of money, fame, relationships, being a good person, whatever that means in one's own system and perception. Being perfect, again, subjective to what the system defines as perfect. Um, Sometimes even noble looking um, movements like helping the society, serving the society, um, acting humbly, all the good behaviors that are labeled as, wow, such a nice person. So yes, being, the quest of being a nice or a kind person can also come from that sense of lack, and being that way or behaving that way is unconsciously the seeking going on, just like the crying happened for the milk. The system acting in this way is basically that same cry for love, for acceptance, for approval, for validations, in the hope that this lack will be fulfilled once that is provided or achieved. And likewise, the inward quest dawns upon in this story of life to the few lucky ones. Uh, and yet we find ourselves as meditating so many hours a day, going on retreats, resonating with the deepest um, concepts, the wisdom concepts, being able to make sense of scriptures and what they mean. And yet, this deep rooted imprint pattern of um, doing something to fill the lack remains. So, I, as a seeker, start out seeking enlightenment or seeking uh, how to become like a sage, or seeking understanding, or seeking detachment, seeking peace, even seeking the absence of um, me or the ego death, as we like to call it in some traditions. So all this also somehow, the movement to control the mind or to think positively or to change the quality of thoughts, all of that may also be that cry for the object of seeking to be delivered in the hope that the seeking, once the object is delivered, the seeking will subside. The catch 22, the paradox, the mind fuck is, and that's why it's called It's Beyond the Mind, is that there may have been a correlation between the object of seeking being delivered by whatever means, whether crying happened or working hard happened or meditating 18 hours a day happened, whatever method was used to seemingly reach that object of seeking. The paradox seems to be that if this lack, the sense of seeking, were absent, receiving or achieving or gaining the object of seeking does not make the seeking go away, but seeking falling away as destined, as the flow of life may do, just like the seeking came into place and the spiritual seeking started as destined. We just find ourselves interested in this topic and wanting to spend more time in our own company and just observing and witnessing, and the impersonal sense of awareness opening up within experience. All of that just flows and appears to happen as the flow of life dictates. Same, the same flow of life can just be without that sense of lack, that sense of something missing, without even the object of seeking being there. And when that happens in experience, one is shocked. One is shocked that, for example, one may find that in the renunciation phase of the spiritual seeking journey, um, one may find that all the things that were enjoyed by the system before, like hanging out with family or certain friends, or doing a certain activity, partying, whatever it used to be. And in that phase, that same pleasure just doesn't feel anything. So, and that may feel like a dry spell, or we may call it as the dark night of the soul, because what was enjoyed before just is dry now. And there's nothing else that I know. So it's just, one is almost shocked or forced to maybe even question that, is this what I was looking for? And yet one may find that that sense of drive or motivation to do certain things that were so exciting before, that drive is just absent. And those activities still go on, may it be hanging out with friends or family or whatever that excitement is. Those activities may still go on, and I may still find myself participating like before, laughing, talking, responding, cooking, serving, whatever. And yet something inside is just not enjoying it anymore. And that's when that may be a hint to really see that that activity wasn't giving me enjoyment. Enjoyment is independent of the activity, because now the activity is there and then enjoyment is not. And likewise, when there is a big possibility that that sense of lack may just fall away, even when the object of seeking, believing this, out of which the seeking that seem to come out of that sense of lack, that seeking so um, deeply. And there was a deep conviction that once that object of seeking is found, I can relax, or the sense of lack can then be fulfilled. But there is a possibility that the sense of lack may just not appear anymore, whether or not the object of seeking is gained or achieved or not. And that is the paradox. I'm using the word maybe, but it's not about finding what is being sought after. It is the seeking, the sense of lack, just falling away. And now the seeking, following the same imprint, the same pattern, may start seeking the end of seeking, not realizing that this is more seeking and more seeking on top of the existing seeking. So, more belief in the lack on top of the belief in the lack. And what may happen is that the lack just falls away when it is seen that nothing is really missing. There's nothing to look for because nothing is lost. I already am. With or without seeking, with or without a feeling of sense of lack. And the movement of seeking something, the movement, the belief in that I need to find the object of seeking to feel okay or for the search to end, all of that just becomes irrelevant. And that is when maybe the how of everything, how a sage is, how do I need to be, how do I need to experience, how do I need to be involved in the thoughts or detached from the thoughts. All of those things just are absent now. There is no how anymore. Everything is okay. I already am exactly as it is. And even that is life happening in that way in this moment. It's not a doing. And it is important to point this out again and again because that deep rooted pattern of belief, which is there from experience, but still a misunderstanding that the seeking falls away when the object of seeking is gained. And life can be kind enough to show proof of how that cannot be accurate, at least all the time. That may be accurate in the physical worldly realm of I behave nicely, so the chances of other person not insulting me are higher. And yet it still doesn't mean that. So yes, the formula works, but it's just a formula. It's not absolute. And the sense of seeking when it comes to seeking fulfillment or enlightenment or seeking the self, seeking to know oneself as one really is, for that search, for that seeking to be fulfilled, the seeking itself has to fall away for what is being sought after to reveal itself. So, in a way, one can say that the question is asked in the hope that I will find the answer. And yet, the answer does not come in the way that, okay, this is the question and this is the answer. But the answer reveals itself when the question itself falls away, when the question is not there anymore. And whether the question remains, well, let's get a step before that. Whether the question arises and whether it remains or whether it falls away is all life happening exactly as it is destined to be, impersonally. And this message is very frustrating to the seeking mechanism, to the seeker. It may trigger frustration and anger, and it's like, what do I do with this? And maybe that's a good sign. And that's why there's so much gratitude for Roger and Ramesh, because it is so clearly pointed out that understanding is not the presence of some absolute or some mystical understanding, something that we think we need to make sense of or gather or know in order to be enlightened. Total understanding is just total absence of misunderstanding. It's not a presence of understanding, it's just the absence of misunderstanding. And that is such an amazing pointer. So it just clearly shows, if it is assimilated in the system, that the search is not about something, but the search is about the search falling away itself, because the search itself is the misunderstanding. So it's about the absence of the misunderstanding. It's not about the presence to the object, presence of the object of the search. So total understanding is not an object, cannot be objectified. It's not even subjective. It is within which the subject and the object play, the understanding and the misunderstanding play. And as we say this so many times, I just feel to point out again that all that is shared here, said, or implied is just a concept and is not the truth. If possible, please take this all very lightly and maybe even forget about it. Unless it seems useful, and then use it and then forget about it. I feel like spending some time in silence with you guys, if that's okay. And if there are any comments, questions, anything that you feel like sharing, also feel free to raise your electronic hand and maybe we can have a conversation. Hello, Raj.
Hello. So, as I said, I have been searching for 40 years, been to India 3 times, and maybe 5 years ago, all the seeking just melted away by itself, no longer needing enlightenment. Yeah. But I do not, I'm not chasing enlightenment, but still watching non-duality videos happens by itself, not with the intention, with the want to get enlightenment, but I am retired, nothing to do. This is what naturally comes automatically. Just I like to watch video gags or world news. So I watch non-duality videos. The same. It is the same for me. So when the for me, yeah, I have a way of saying is the goal of seeking is to stop seeking. Now, when you have reached, when you are in that state, not seeking, where do we go from there?
So when you're not seeking, or when you're seeking,
Yeah, when you're when the seeking drops, and then what?
yes,
What?
then what? Then this, whatever is. Still getting ready happens, washing my hair happens, putting a bindi on happens, you joining into Zoom happens, maybe working out happens, working happens, making money happens. Everything still goes on exactly as it used to, or totally different from what it used to. But the flow of life flows just now without that inherent seeking that something needs to be delivered from out there, because that need is just now absent, but the life flows.
Yeah, just do what you love. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. It's like
But
how Bhagavad Gita said, action, do the action, or action happens, but not from a place of needing the fruit of the action.
karma yoga.
Yeah, so karm kar, phal ki ichha mat kar. So that's really the state of the enlightened one, or the one that
Yeah,
within which the misunderstanding is absent now, that the action still goes on, but now
yeah, yeah,
the intention or the attachment to the fruit of that action or the outcome of that action is not there.
yeah,
Yeah. So the action still goes on, ever so passionately, maybe even.
yeah. This is what also surrender.
Yes.
We can call it surrender. Yeah,
Abs-
effortless surrender. Effortless surrender. It's not like I have to surrender. No, it will not work. A
Yes.
surrender which comes automatically.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And what Ramesh does not give any practices. And what you think of? And you also do you do you advise any practice or no practice?
Well,
No.
if you feel like, so the only thing that worked for me, and what I can recommend, is just do what you feel like. And that might be the practice. But
Yeah, some
it doesn't feel like a practice because you're doing what you feel like. So you're not forcing yourself to, meditate or feel compassion, or just do what you feel like. And if that can happen, that might be the only thing that I would recommend as a practice, but it's not a practice.
Yeah, I heard about that. Do exactly what you. Maybe Lisa Kian said it. I don't know. I have heard about this. Yeah.
Well, Roger, what I understood from Roger also, um, that, yeah, just do what you feel like and not what you think you should or shouldn't be doing. And again, that happening will also be, whether it happens or not, will be God's will, or life happening as it happens. So even that is not my choice, my doing.
And maybe I had not heard you about it. Everything happening is perfect, just as it is, because it is God's will. Whether it is crime, torture, rape, or wars, God's will, just perfect. It is perfect, just as it is.
Well, yes, it is God's will for sure. And again, it's a concept. Let's not forget that also. It is a concept. And the concept where it says that everything is just perfect as it is, no matter what, I can see where it comes from. Like what is the purpose of making that statement? That statement exactly points to, or cuts the attachment for life to be different, or for that sense of control that thinks that life can be controlled and made different from what it is. So the concept of everything is perfect as it is because it's God's will is really pointed to that sense of control, or that sense of needing to mold life according to my version of how it should be. So then you
So
just say
another way of
already.
yeah, yeah. So what you are saying is not needing stuff to be other than what they are.
Yes. And from that place, the effort or the action to change can still happen.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So what you said, to be okay with everything and to be okay even if it is not okay. For example, you get a disease, you take the first treatment, it doesn't, so you get the second treatment, and this continues. But at no point you say this should not happen. The treatment should have worked. At no point you are saying this.
Or even if I end up feeling like this, should, why is this happening? Even that is okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So what I have found is the the seeking. I do not. I do not have. It is not me who seek. That it is not me who seeks. It happens, and it is not me who ends the seeking. The end of seeking happens by itself, and enlightenment doesn't depend. It just happened. Whether it happens, maybe it happened for you, maybe it will never happen for me. For me, at end of seeking, just I am. This is what will. This will continue until my death. I will not be enlightened, the full enlightened like others. So enlightenment finally, it is destined. Well, it is something to destined.
Yes. Yes. And apparently, that seems to be the last obstacle in a way. Once there is acceptance or absence of non acceptance towards the possibility of never getting enlightened or never suffering never ending in this lifetime. So an acceptance towards that is really the last piece of the puzzle, seemingly. So yeah, that's a healthier attitude, or an attitude that has lesser suffering in it, that can be peaceful with the fact that I may never
Yeah,
experience end of suffering in this life, and that's okay.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But all these suffering, all these bad things happening, all this is God's will. What is the purpose of all this? What is the purpose?
God knows.
Yeah,
It's like how Ramesh said that a painted object can never know the will of the painter's subject. So why so much black? If we call black pain, then who knows? God knows.
but if you some teachers say without suffering you can't appreciate bliss.
Absolutely.
So that's why
That's
that's
right,
why
isn't
all
it?
these bad things exist.
Well, basically, an explanation would be that this is a manifestation of duality. So if
Yeah,
there exists good, there has to exist the opposite of that, and vice versa.
yeah,
So if
yeah,
we find love and selflessness and service in the world, there has to be its opposite, because that's how this manifestation is designed.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, thank you.
So thank you. We keep saying that seeking is destiny, falling away of seeking is destiny, and not our doing. The interest in listening to these concepts is destiny. The grasping of these concepts intellectually or experientially is destiny. And yet, this concept, just being exposed to these methodologies or teachings, is proof enough that it's just a matter of time. It's like that river flowing so violently for like however long a duration. It's just a matter of time that the stone is going to erode or Erosion's going to happen. That's how it goes. Everybody knows. So there is, as Ramesh many times used to say, that there is no reason to be any less than optimistic that it is inevitable. When, um, how long, all these questions and drives and even suffering, it feels like suffering. It's like, when is it going to ever happen, or how will it happen? How can I make it happen? What can I do to contribute, to fasten it, to um cat be a catalyst towards it? And the answer is, who cares? Who cares when it happens? Who cares whether it happens? And this is not a cynical question in a way to punish the question or to punish the questioner. Really find out who cares. This is the same pointing as Ramana saying, who am I? And nobody is to be found. Try and find who is it that cares. And when this question really sinks in and shows what it is supposed to be pointing to, maybe that's exactly enlightenment. So let's not worry about a thing. Let's not worry about being triggered or being peaceful or being attached or detached. Resting in awareness or being fully involved in the movement of the psychological self. It's okay. All is okay. Why not? Why not? Suffering is what seems to be here, as what my experience seems to be right now. Let's suffer. Is there a choice? I don't think so. There doesn't seem to be a choice until there is an appearance of choice and an appearance of decision to choose the choice, and then suffering falling away. But if there is a possibility to be okay with suffering, that's already a choice that has been made in the system, which is now refined enough, mature enough, surrendered enough to understand that being okay with suffering is not quitting, it's actually lesser suffering. And hell yeah, I'm going to choose lesser suffering if that choice seems to be available and if that choice seems to be chosen. Why not? And if not, that's okay. And we're back again at the choice. Because not being okay is suffering. If there is a little possibility of just being okay with not being okay, with not being okay, and however many layers there are of that, just that little tiny ray of being okay with all of that chaos is the seeming beginning of the end of suffering. And even if there is not a single tiny possibility of being okay, then that's okay. And we're back again at that choice. So, okay or not okay is okay. And here we are, always, choicelessly, impersonally, within which even the okay, not okay plays out. So we have Raj again.
Yeah. What you're saying is, Ramana said it, I mean, if your head is already in the tiger's mouth, you will not escape.
Yes. Yes. And it's only Ramana who can use this analogy as a good news.
Yeah.
It's only because Ramana said it, you hear it and you're like relieved rather than what actually would happen if a tiger would. Yes.
and and what about death? When death happens, the ego falls away. No ego. So is death the same as enlightenment?
Well, I
Is
don't.
death the same as enlightenment? Because in both cases the ego vanish.
Well, seemingly, I'll have to die to tell you to know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, conceptually speaking, death seems to be, when pondered upon, what death may feel like, although who knows what death would be. There is a constant proof that this body dies, or like this body becomes lifeless and there's nothing operating in the body anymore. Um, so something leaves the body, and that something, we call it consciousness, we call it with the personalized or the imprinted version of that consciousness can be called the ego, or those memories that can go back in that big database that we were talking about when we were talking about reincarnation and whatnot. So ego would just be a system of memories that may leave the body and may get stored somewhere or transformed into something else, or who knows what, in what way. But death, when pondered upon, just feels like deep sleep, because I'm not there in deep sleep either. So it feels like that Gurleen will die for sure. And is that enlightenment? Well, Gurleen doesn't know because she would be dead. But it is called Mahasamadhi. So, Samadhi being the enlightenment while being in the body, and Mahasamadhi is called to be the death of the body. So it is in a way labeled as super enlightenment. So yeah, maybe. We leave you at that. Thank you again for your presence. I will maybe let you guys know next Sunday, for because the Sunday satsangs are going to end in September. So I'll let you guys know next Sunday how many satsangs are there for this Sunday satsang series. And yeah, it's been it's been such a joy, and we still have a few left. So let's let's enjoy them to the fullest. And thank you for making these possible. Bye for now.